look at how they live and what's in their minds? What do they think?
The first thing in their minds is how can we get money out of these people? To be honest.
Okay, well that's what I'm asking. Yep.
Which is unfortunately one of the bad effects of tourism. But if you go to a site which is not a tourist place, that's a different story. I mean, most of the sites that we're stopping at, they're used to seeing tourists, and they know that tourists are here, they come to look at the places, and if we can get some money out of them for looking at the mill, or for buying something from our shop, or for doing this, doing that, we'll go for it and try to do it, because in a large way, most of them depend on tourism as a source of income, in one way or the other. But if you're out in the villages where there are no tourists coming to the place, the first thing that will come to these people's mind is let's invite these people in for a drink, let's take them into the house for a meal if it's meal time. Are they lost? If they need help, we'll help them with the directions, and we'll try to find out their nationalities, where you're from, and start talking, and the kids especially will start practicing whatever little English they've studied in schools, if you speak English, that sort of thing. So it's a totally different thing. There's a difference between tourist sites, because yes, they're welcoming and they're warm and everything, but it's also for them, it's a source of money. Whereas in other places which do not rely on tourism, they don't expect to get paid for any of these things. They're more hospitable. They go to extreme lengths. If you're lost in a village and driving through and your car breaks down in the evening or at night in a village in Cairo or around Egypt, in different parts of Egypt or so on, everybody in the village, especially usually the head of the villages, would invite you to stay overnight, and even if people don't have anything in their houses, they'll be willing to.
Will relate to their government. Let me put a preamble to that. We get in our press that Iraqi and his regime are not real popular, and that that Muslim Brotherhood is, if given a free election, Muslim Brotherhood would take over the country, and that this country could be ripe for a revolution when Iraqi dies. So let's put some flesh on that. What do the people think? Why?
I cannot speak for everybody. Of course, there are mixed views within the population, but I think the overwhelming majority. We did have a free election.
Was it free?
It was free. It was a completely free election, and Mubarak won again by a landslide, because basically there were no opposition. There was no other nominees. I mean, the other nominees had nothing to say, really. Well, one of them, his slogan for his election is that everybody's entitled to have a mobile. Another man, all his aim in life, what he thinks is good for the country, is to bring back the fez. You know, this red caps. That's what they were talking about. So how can you elect somebody like that? There was nobody that's really worth voting for that was in the elections. The Muslim Brotherhood does have supporters, and their support is rising, and they're gaining more support, they're getting more seats in parliament and everything. But I do not see them as actually running the country.
Why?
As such. Because they do form a relatively small percent of the population. It's not a huge percent of the population. You have to understand that the Muslim Brotherhood is a totally non-militant organization. Okay? Unlike a lot of the views that come around that these terrorists or terrorist attacks are being provided for by the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood is a completely non-militant organization.
What are they?
They do not believe in using arms at all.
What are they then?
It's a group of people who are calling for going back to the fundamentals of religion. And when people say fundamentalists, what is really the meaning of the word fundamentalist? Somebody who goes back to the origins of the religion. And if you look at any religion, they're all good. If you really go back to the origins of the religion, they're good. What do religions call for? Equality, freedom, treat your neighbor well, all of these good things. What's wrong with that? So in a sense, it's not, and that's why they're gaining more support, is that it's going back to the stop of corruption, to the stop of crimes, to making it a more safe environment for everybody, whether it was in politics or commerce or any other way. And that is why they're gaining more support from that side. Not yet powerful enough to actually gain a presidential election. But they're gaining more control over the local governments in different areas. Not control, but they're getting votes, high votes in the local elections, for example, in governments and in parliament. But still, the overwhelming majority, even now in the parliament, is still the National Democratic Party, which is headed by the president.
When the Muslim Brotherhood takes over a local community, do they still allow the Coptics and other?
Do they still allow?
Other Christian sects to exist and thrive?
Of course.
There's none of this. In southern Thailand, there's a war going on, and the Muslims in that case are eradicating Christians in that area. That
Not
doesn't
in
happen
Egypt.
here.
Not in Egypt.
Why aren't the heads of governments going after these terrorists that kidnap, behead, blow up multiple sites?
You know why?
Yeah,
Because
no,
you
that's why
defend
I'm
them.
asking you.
You want the honesty?
Yeah.
You defend them.
Oh.
Human rights. No, these are human rights. You know that the largest number of terrorists are given political asylum in the United States and the United Kingdom. People who are wanted for crimes, for terrorist crimes in their countries, are given political asylum by the United States and the United Kingdom. Freedom of speech, human rights, this and that. If we try to clamp down on terrorists in Egypt, or they catch them and so on, it's a human right thing. No, these are politically challenged and they're politically persecuted and so. Somebody who shoots children in a school is now in the UK, in the States actually.
Okay.
Omar Abdurrahman, he was the one who orchestrated the first bomb in the Twin Towers in the World Trade Center. And he was wanted in Egypt, and he fled to the United States, and the United States first gave him political asylum. Then when he also orchestrated that bombing thing, he was put in prison. I think he was put in prison before, and then they found out afterwards that he was the one who orchestrated it. Then they wanted to give him back to Egypt. He said, no, you like the guy so much, you gave him political asylum, keep him. As long as you keep him away from us, it's fine. There is a very fine line between human rights and between terrorism.
I think he's in Brazil.
He's in Brazil now.
He's in
He's been extradited to Brazil.
Jeez.
What the? It just seems like there's a lot of people with guns. I mean, I see a hell of a lot of people carrying guns and they're loaded. I mean, AK. I can look at my binoculars and see they got 3 magazines on there. This morning, the guard who came to his tower, not one of the antiquities, but the guy in the street, he walked up to his tower and it was remarkable because the first thing he did is he listed all the garbage and checked all the way around. Now, I don't think he was worried about the garbage. I thought he was really looking for somebody to put an explosive or something there because he went around. He did what a good guard would do, and then he felt comfortable and he sat down, even though we were looking at him. And I guess I thought, man, I don't know if I would feel secure. So I just wonder why. Are there that many incidents that go on?